We're going to look at a couple of new functions here that we haven't talked about yet. First function we'll talk about is how to make a panel of boards. And panels sometimes become useful where you can put several boards on a single panel. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Now here we have our little board we made, our little op-amp board. I have a second board here that's from a previous project. Let's come over to projects. Here's my op-amp project. I'm going to right click, say add new to project, a new PCB, because that's where we're going to put our panel. We have to have a second PCB for the panel. So let's take a look. Here it says PCB1. I need to save as, and I'm going to call it the op-amp, and I'll put a space in here, and I'll say PNL for panel, op-amp panel. Great, now I have an op-amp panel, and what I want to do is place my panel on there, and by doing that, or the way to do that is to press place up here, and we'll see this function down here called embedded board array panelize. I'm going to tell it yes, let's panelize here. It brings up the little box. I have nothing selected, so just like all the other functions we've done earlier, we press tab to get the properties, and I say which PCB document do I want? I want this PCB document. There we go. And then I can give it the size. Here's the spacing right here. So I'm going to hit pause. Bring this guy down here. I'm going to zoom in and put him right on the corner. There we go. Now I can hit tab again and say I want to make a different PCB to put in there. So I'll go to my Dropbox. Let's see, I have this one here. Here's another PCB. I can place it here. Make a little space where it's possible for me to shear between the two boards. And now I have two boards on one PCB. Now the smart thing to do at that point would be to draw my keep out, set my origin to 0, 0 at the bottom corner. There's a few things I could do to finish this. So we can check the properties on this. Let me highlight this guy. I can come up here to the properties, and maybe I want to pin that so it stays there. And let's say I want to make a larger array. I'm going to make it 2 by 2. And look what happens. I need to move this board now, because he is in the way. There we go. Alright, we need to make some adjustments here, so let's highlight this board, this panel of 4 boards. Go back to my properties, I'll just pin this in place. I made it a 2 by 2. So how much space do I want here? Well, generally 50 mils is good. And space here, generally 50 mils is good. Alright, that gives me a fair amount of space in there to be able to cut those boards apart. Let's get this guy and pull him back down. Now I can zoom in here and make sure I have him squared. Yeah, he looks pretty square. Let's see. I can put him right on the edge there. Alright. So I set my margin here to 0. That's my edge of my board, my origin. I made an array of a 2 by 2 because I wanted 4 of these, but I just wanted 1. Now I have 5 boards on one panel. This can be advantageous on some of the PCB companies. If you were in a big rush and you did bare bones PCB, this would be the way to go because it's cheaper to have all these on one panel. So I'm going to unpin this, And it becomes the same old thing now. I'm going to hit keep out layer. I'm going to tell it place keep out track. I can come here, zoom in, start my keep out track. Now I'll warn you that some of the manufacturers will only do square or rectangular boards. They won't do an odd shape. So you need to pay attention to that. Depends on who you're sending it to. This guy, I want to come right about here. So my Y is 6240. And my X would be, if I'm going to make this a rectangle, I need to know how far over this board comes. So I want to come around here. So my X would be 50-50. I'll come up here. And I'll drag this guy out to 50-50. You can see the numbers on the bottom left corner. I'm at 50-50. I double click. I can now get this guy down here to 0. And I'll drag this one over. I highlight one. I hit the tab key, selects them all. I go to design. Board shape defined from selected objects. Now if I do a view, fit the board, there we go. I now have 5 boards on a single panel. So that's how to make a panel. It's not too hard. Most of the time we don't need to do it when we ship boards out to these manufacturers, PCBWay or JLC PCB. It's cheaper to get individual boards, and they give you 5 of each than it generally is to make a big panel. If you send them out to Advanced Circuits, or the fastest way, which will get you a printed circuit board built overnight and shipped the next day, is at barebonespcb.com, and you'll get a board that'll just be the fiberglass with the copper on the top and bottom with plated through holes, and they tint it so it looks silver with just the fiberglass. You won't have the solder mask, you won't have the top overlay, you won't have this nice text on here, but they'll build it tonight and ship it tomorrow. So when you get in a pinch, that's another option. Alright, thanks for watching the video, and we'll have just a couple of more to go.